Hello everyone, how y'all doing? Tonight we're going to talk about understanding music. Today's lesson we're going to be talking about identifying notes that's on the staff. A lot of times we have people who are learning how to read, but then they may have a hard time trying to identify which note is which, because there's so many lines and spaces. Sometimes your eyes can get confused. So I'm going to explain here today on how to, from an artist standpoint. I'm also an artist. I'm going to try to draw the staff here and simplify it for you guys. Hope you guys understand. What we're going to do, I started off with this thing called a ledger line. The ledger line is not really important. I just put it there for the purpose of understanding the grand staff later on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this little ruler. It's a ruler here, and I'm going to use this to create our lines on the staff. So I'll try to do this the best way I can. Let me pull this thing out first, so I won't be fighting. So what I'm going to do here is draw this line. All right. Now, so you see, we have that this bottom line here, which is the bottom line of the treble clef. Let's do the treble clef for now. So now what people may have a hard time trying to understand is the lines and spaces, like I mentioned earlier. So what we're going to do, we're going to start off with this bottom line here. It's the bottom line of the staff, and we're going to name this the E. Okay? Not name it, but this is actually what it's called. So that is an E, right? So any note that would land on this line here would be called an E. Whether it's a quarter note, a whole note, a half note, dotted half note, an eighth note, 16th note, and so on and so forth. Now any note right underneath this line would be the previous note. So for example, in the musical alphabet, we know what comes before E is D. So the space right underneath this line here, which is the E, would be called a D. So we're not going down, but we're going, we're ascending on the musical staff here. And so what we would be worried about right now is the space that is right above this E line. Okay? So we know in the musical alphabet, what comes after E is F. So on this side, we're going to do the spaces. Let me just write spaces on top here. Space. And right above here are the lines. Okay? Lines as spaces. Okay? So right over here, we have the F. Okay? That is the space right above the E. Now the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to draw the next line. So hope I get this right here. So you see how I'm kind of doing this, guys? Gotta have like a steady hand to do this too. So, so we have another line. Okay? So what comes after E is F. And what comes after F in the musical alphabet is a G. Okay? Let me erase that treble clef sign for now. You all know what it is. I'll probably make a little small one up here, just so everybody knows this is, yeah, that's better. Okay, so that is the G. Okay, and what comes after G, as we all know in the musical alphabet, once you get to G, you start at A again. So the space right above this G line would be called an A. See that? Okay, so that's an A. So we got, so far we have from the bottom up. I like to do this from the bottom up because that's how we, you know, would say the alphabet. You know, so after E comes F, after F comes G, and then we start to A, and then from A would be the next note. So I need another line. So let me put this here again. Steady hand. Not bad. Okay. After A comes B. Okay. After A comes B, and we know what comes after B is on this side, which is the spaces, is a C. Okay. Another line. Oops. I kind of moved there a little. After B comes C, and after C comes D. So this is the D line. After D, of course, would come E. Okay? And then finally, the final line we have, which is above here, steady hand. Would be NF. So you see there, this is how the musical staff is set up. Now a lot of people have a hard time. They think that it's random. It's not random. These are in alphabetical order. And like I showed you earlier, I went ahead and kind of drew the lines of spaces. Of course, I didn't have to draw the spaces, but you know, you have on the bottom is E. After E comes F. After F comes G. After G is A, B, C, D, E, and F. All right. A lot of people have a hard time trying to understand that. We know from traditional music, we know this is as they would make a phrase. Since I was a kid, they used to tell me that it was every good boy does fine. Then I had a couple students along the way, and some of my female students, girls, they would get upset because I didn't include the girls. So I would say every girl or boy does fine, you know, just to kind of get them in the mix there too, you know, get everybody involved. And then on the other side, of course, we have F-A-C-E, which we spell face. Now, right underneath here, like I mentioned earlier, is something that most people don't really pay attention to. We know what comes before E is D, like I mentioned earlier. Just going to be a D right here. And do it really small so you guys can see. And of course, this ledger line is a C. So what comes before C is D. Okay? So you have a C and then a D, which is a space, then E and F, G, A, B, C, D, E, and F. Now there's a little trick that I learned along the way. And the grand staff for example, pianos, let's include the bass clef down here. Pianos read. We have another staff which is right underneath this line. This might be a little bit easier. Oops. Okay. You see that? Then of course, just gonna kind of do this a little quick. Okay. Okay, so, all right. And of course, what comes before C is B. All right, this is going to be a B space here. Okay. Now going down to the lines, this is an A. Okay. Down here is a G. Right before G is F. Right before F is E. Right before E is D. Before D is C. Before C is B. Before B is A. And then that bottom line is going to be a G. Okay? And now, again, like I said earlier, it's all in alphabetical order. So we have the G down here. The G is A. After A is B, then C, then D, and E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. And of course, right after F would be a G, and so on and so forth. And you would continue on drawing some ledger lines, knowing that it is in alphabetical order. And of course, for the bass clef, you have good boys does find always. And then of course I had to change that, girls, boys does find always. And then of course for the spaces, you have A, C, E, G, which is, you could use the phrase, all cows eat grass. Okay? A lot of times people have trouble with this because they're, you know, they think it's random, and it's never random. It's just in alphabetical order. All you have to do is just understand which line is, you know, is which. So for example, on the treble clef here, you have, for example, let's say the third line. The third line is a B. But when you look at the bass clef, the third line is a D. Okay? And then too, what like I mentioned earlier with the alphabetical order, if you look at this G right here, G, B, D, F, you would see that same pattern down on the bass clef down here, which is a G, B, D, F, right? You know, like I said, it's all in alphabetical order. And then in between G and B down here, you have an A. That's between the first line and the second line, right? B and G. But on the treble clef, G and B is from the second line and the third line. Okay? So, this is how, you know, I just explained it. Most people see it like this, you know. You know, they're reading music and then they can't really see the notes. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just basically erasing all of the letters that I, you know, wrote earlier. This is basically what you're seeing. So what you would have to do is you would have to start memorizing the names of each line in space. Okay? and it just takes some practice. So all you have to do is just remember the bottom line for treble clef is an E, and then the bottom line for bass clef is a G. And so all you have to do now is basically, you know, just follow the alphabet. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, and so on and so forth. So, I hope that this video is able to help you guys out. You know what, quickly, really quick. So, if I, let's see, just a little test. If I put a quarter note right here, right? So, for you guys, what's the name of that note? Okay, so what we'll do is we'll follow E, which is the bottom line. After E comes F, which is the space. The F comes G, and then A, then B, then C. And since that quarter note is sitting on the line, it's sitting on the D. So then that quarter note will be a D, right? You have the D line right here, line. Now if I put a quarter note here, right, on the same fourth line from the bottom, but instead of it being a treble clef, it's on the bass clef. So then what we would do, since we're reading bass clef, the bottom line would be G, followed by A, and then B, and then C, D, E, and then F. So that note would be in F. And then if you have a note that falls on a space, for example, right? Remember the spaces from, or let's include the line also so we can just do it in alphabetical order. After E comes F, which is this space. After F comes G, and then after G comes A. So then this note would be an A. And that's basically how it is to understand notation when it comes to reading music. So, well, I hope this video is able to help all of you guys out there that's struggling with something like this. Please subscribe to the video, and if you want, you can turn on the little bell, and that way you can get a notification when I create a new video. So that's it for today. Thank you guys, and good luck reading music.